Rhaenyra finally sits the Iron Throne, 6 dragons behind her, the war seemingly won. And by the end of this episode, she has already made decisions that will destroy everything. This episode isn't about whether Rhaenyra won. She won. This episode is about something far more dangerous. Whether she can hold it. And the answer, hidden inside 13 decisions she makes across a single day, is already pointing toward no. Every mercy she shows creates a new enemy. Every enemy she spares becomes a future threat. And the one person who understands power completely is watching her make mistake after mistake and saying nothing. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Rhaenyra's greatest victory was also the beginning of her fall. Picture this scene. The Reach, the River Mander, 15,000 Hightower soldiers stretched across the landscape, and riding toward them alone, Daemon Targaryen, no men, no escort, just a man on a dragon who could turn every soldier in that field to ash before a single arrow left a bow. Ormond Hightower looks at Daemon, looks at the dragons behind him, and makes the only rational calculation available. He surrenders. Rhaenyra offers clemency, allegiance sworn, the Rose Road home. And Daemon privately tells her exactly what he thinks of that decision. We should have burned them all. Now here's why that disagreement matters far more than it appears. Rhaenyra wants to be her father, judicious, merciful, a queen who rules through respect rather than fear. Daemon wants to be Aegon the Conqueror, overwhelming force, no loose ends, no future problems. Both positions have logic, only one of them is right. And the 15,000 soldiers currently walking home on the Rose Road will prove which one before this season ends. Because Ormond's army doesn't go home, they go to Tumbleton. And what happens there is something Rhaenyra's mercy made possible. The Iron Throne cut her hands. First time she sat on it. The realm has always interpreted that as a sign. The throne rejecting her claim. Rhaenyra called it nothing. The throne disagreed. Rhaenyra inherited a crown. She also inherited everything underneath it. The treasury is empty. Tywin Lannister divided the gold and moved it out of the city before she arrived. There's enough left to hold court for 1 week. The city has been under blockade. Her blockade, which means the small folk who cheered her coronation outside the Grand Septet are the same small folk who have been starving under her strategy. The nobles hoarded what food remained. Sylvia, the brothel owner who has her finger on the pulse of King's Landing better than any lord, tells her directly, the people have nothing. So Rhaenyra faces her first impossible choice on day 1. Take the food back from the nobles and create enemies among the lords she needs, or leave the small folk hungry and lose the people she just promised to protect. She chooses a middle path, food distributed, a modest anointment ceremony instead of a full coronation. Practical, thoughtful, measured, and insufficient on every front. Allison looked at the boy Ormond handed over as Daeron and knew immediately that isn't her son. She said nothing. Here's what Ormond actually did. He surrendered, bent the knee, handed over a blonde-haired boy as his ward Daeron Targaryen, and kept the real Daeron safely hidden. The boy delivered to Rhaenyra has the wrong hair, wrong eyes, wrong everything if you know what Daeron actually looks like. Daemon is meeting his nephew for the first time and has no idea the person in front of him isn't his nephew at all. Rhaenyra decides this fake Daeron goes to the wall, taking the black out of the game. Daemon wanted him executed because here's the problem with sending an impostor to the wall. The real Daeron is still out there, still a legitimate male heir. Under the precedent set at the Great Council of 101 AC, the throne cannot pass through a woman to her male descendants so long as a true-born male heir exists. Daeron is that heir, and he's currently riding with the man who just surrendered. Going home on the Rose Road, toward Tumbleton, Rhaenyra showed mercy. She just didn't know who she was showing it to. Rhaenyra asked the High Septin to anoint her. He refused. The reason he gave was procedural. The reason underneath that was simpler. 2 monarchs cannot be anointed simultaneously, and nobody has confirmed Aegon II is dead. Here's the difference between a coronation and an anointment. A coronation grants earthly authority. Lords swear fealty. The crown goes on your head. You are queen in the eyes of men. An anointment grants divine right. The High Septin draws a 7-pointed star on your forehead with holy oils. You are queen in the eyes of the gods. Rhaenyra has one. She cannot get the other. Because Aegon II, wounded, disfigured, missing, was anointed before he disappeared. And the High Septin hasn't seen his body. So Rhaenyra argues. She says her successful takeover is proof of divine favor. She says a dragon came to her in her greatest moment of need. The High Septin looks at her and reminds her what dragons represent to the faith: profane magic, created in darkness, fueling the lust for power. Rhaenyra could force the issue. She has 6 dragons. She does not, because making an enemy of the faith in a city already on the edge would be the last mistake she ever made as queen. So she compromises again, distributes food outside the Grand Sept instead. A subtle snub to the High Septin, and a gesture the small folk will cheer, the same way they cheered Aegon's coronation. People in King's Landing cheer whoever feeds them. That's not loyalty, that's hunger. Corlys Velaryon lost his wife, lost his children, lost his castle, lost most of his fleet. He asked for one thing in return: his name for his bastard sons. Rhaenyra said no. Understand what Corlys actually asked for. Not land, not gold, not a seat on the small council. He asked for his sons, Adam and Alan, to carry the Velaryon name, to be acknowledged as lords of the realm, to have something to show for what their father sacrificed to put Rhaenyra on the throne. Last episode, Corlys told Adam directly, "All I can give you now is my name." He couldn't even do that. Rhaenyra's reasoning is sound on paper. Legitimizing bastards calls the birthright of her own children into question. The lords already whisper about Jacaerys and Lucerys. She cannot afford to invite more scrutiny. But here's what her refusal actually did. It took the man who lost everything for her and told him his everything wasn't enough to earn a name. Corlys defers when asked his opinion on the small folk later. "I defer to the queen. That's not respect. That's a man deciding how much more he's willing to give to someone who just told him his sacrifice has limits." Watch Corlys carefully going forward, because the Game of Thrones has never been won by loyalty alone. And Rhaenyra just reminded her most valuable ally. That loyalty has a ceiling. Ulf wants the Targaryen name. Hugh wants a house on Vespus Hill. Rhaenyra gave them neither. 2 men with dragons, who just watched her give away nothing, while Ormond Hightower walked home with his army intact. What exactly are they fighting for? Let's be specific about what these 2 men actually are. Ulf believes himself the bastard son of Balon the Brave, which would make him half-brother to Daemon and Viserys. He rides Silverwing. He wants to be a lord. Hugh the Hammer, former blacksmith, promised his wife Cat a better life the moment he claimed a dragon. He rides for Mithor. He wants a house. Rhaenyra knighted them, offered Ulf a clout in the ear as a joke, gave Hugh a house on Vespus Hill. Not Aegon's High Hill, not noble territory, merchant territory. A subtle reminder of where he comes from. Now here's why this matters enormously for what's coming. Hugh's wife fled King's Landing. She went to Tumbleton, the same town Ormond Hightower and his 15,000 soldiers, the ones Rhaenyra let walk home, are currently occupying. If Rhaenyra orders Tumbleton burned, she's ordering Hugh to burn his wife. And if Ormond offers Hugh something better than a house on a merchant hill, what does Hugh do? The show is setting this up deliberately. Every piece is in place. The only question is when it moves. A dragon tamer arrived from Tumbleton. He escaped Ormond's forces. Rhaenyra's first instinct, burn it, her advisors reminded her. Women and children, inside the walls. Her mercy created this situation. Her mercy cannot solve it. Here's the full picture of what Rhaenyra is now facing. Ormond Hightower, the man she showed mercy to, the man who bent the knee, has taken Tumbleton hostage, a prosperous market town, 60 leagues southwest of King's Landing, on the border of the Crown Lands. And inside those walls, Hugh's wife, innocent civilians, People who have nothing to do with the war Rhaenyra just won. So what does a queen who values mercy do when mercy is the reason the problem exists? She could order the dragons to burn it. She ends the threat. She punishes the betrayal. She demonstrates that bending the knee means something. She also burns innocent people alive and loses Hugh Hammer in the process. She could negotiate, give Ormond something to make him release the hostages, reward the man who just violated his oath, and teach every lord in Westeros that Rhaenyra's mercy has a price. There is no clean answer here, because Rhaenyra's first decision, letting that army walk home, made sure of that. Daemon told her they should conquer the world. 6 dragons, the free cities, everything east and west. Rhaenyra told him her father warned against too much power. Daemon left the conversation abruptly. He didn't argue. He didn't push back. He just left. This is the conversation that tells you everything about where Season 3 is heading. Daemon looks at 6 dragons and sees an empire. Rhaenyra looks at 6 dragons and sees responsibility. He invokes the dream of old Valyria. The Targaryens were chosen, saved by prophecy, meant for something greater. She invokes her father, who said dragons were a power no man should trifle with. Here's what's happening underneath that disagreement. Rhaenyra is governing. Daemon is conquering. And these two things, in the same castle, with the same dragons, cannot coexist. Rhaenyra spent this entire episode trying to be Viserys. Measured, just, merciful. Daemon spent this episode watching her do it and deciding what he's going to do about it. He didn't marry a queen who would govern cautiously. He married a queen he thought would burn the world with him. And Tumbleton, the town sitting 60 leagues away, full of hostages, and Hugh Hammer's wife, is going to force both of them to show who they actually are. 13 decisions in one episode, most of them defensible, most of them reasonable, most of them already building toward catastrophe. The Hightower army walks home, toward Tumbleton. The real Daeron rides with them, free. The Treasury has a week's worth of gold and a coronation still unpaid for. Corlys Velaryon sits on the small council, saying he defers to the queen. Hugh Hammer has a house on a merchant hill and a wife behind enemy walls. Ulf the White has a knight's title and nothing else. The High Septin refuse the anointment, and Rhaenyra's divine mandate remains unconfirmed. And somewhere on the road to Rook's Rest, Larry Strong and a recovering Aegon II still carry the crown of Aegon the Conqueror. Proof of legitimacy. Proof the war isn't over. Rhaenyra stood outside the Grand Sept today and told the small folk she would rule with strength and mercy. They cheered, the same way they cheered Aegon. The bells rang 12 times through this episode, one for every decision. Every decision a domino, every domino already falling. The episode ends with Hightower colors burning in the courtyard. Rhaenyra watching the fire, thinking she's watching the end of something. She isn't. She's watching it begin.